from your job for things you say on Twitter or on Facebook.
I'm not a big fan of the lynch mob mentality in
Okay.
general. So, the court of public opinion is often wrong. That's why we don't use them for real trials. So, just clarifying for everyone. That's, again, that whole, amendment things that I like. Those 4 through 7, really more important than anybody realizes. But having said that, it's also interesting because people, I always try to remember that people don't present the bad days on Facebook either.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're only getting, just like with anybody else, you're only getting what they allow you to see. And while people struggle about where are we more connected, disconnected, I think that we're way more connected or have the ability to be. But we have to be at least real about who we are. And when you are real, then there are other things that you have, to be concerned about. And one of the more interesting things, that seems to come up both on Facebook and on Twitter, specifically, I guess, those two, because of the interactions with old friends and new, is that, a lot of people, you'll hear people saying like, oh, I'm getting tired of this, quote, high school stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, this high school stuff. And when I immediately hear that, I kind of think of Mean Girls because it's one of my favorite movies. And I love that movie. It represents a great deal. It also holds a very special place in my heart due to my own high school experiences. But having said that, there's a story out, I'm sorry, not a study, but a story out about these women that are living in retirement homes and are acting like mean girls. To each other. Like, they have a cafeteria table and they don't let anybody else hang out with them. And so I'm starting to think that the mean girl thing wasn't even something new for us. Yeah. It's been something that's been going on a long time and apparently is now being carried out in retirement homes. So if life is high school, because this is what that teaches me.
Yeah.
Because clearly the people in the retirement homes are not, quote, high school. If life is high school, then what are we getting out of it? What does everybody get out of it? Is it that instant recognition? We all like attention. Is it the instant recognition? Is it because, we're just so self-absorbed? And again, I feel the need to, with full disclosure, let everybody know I do plan on getting a selfie stick because I have short arms. So you can judge away, but I'm just saying that's what I'm going to do.
You cover a lot. There's a lot to unpack in that, Mickey. And
I apologize.
No, that's fine. One point being that, and I think there's somebody written a whole essay on this. That people say, "Oh, that's so high school." That what do we attribute to high school? Whether it's cliquishness, whether it's rivalries, whether it's extreme focus on social stature and things like that. That isn't necessarily high school. That's actually can be considered just human behavior. And you can love it, you can hate it. Mm-hmm. You'd like to think that over time people will outgrow it or mature or be perhaps more kind-hearted in their dealings than they are as a hormone and other adult teenager. But not, as we all know, that's not always the case. The second thing you mentioned when you talk about things you put out on social media. A recent discussion relating to someone who I would say was primarily known for Facebook postings. Right. Furious discussion about whether this person constituted a public figure. And, particularly for this is a very important issue for the media in terms of libel law, right. Libel and slander, that whether, is someone a private citizen just minding their own business who you write something about that is not true? Or is this someone who is a, public official or a celebrity or something like that? And the bar is much higher to libel a public figure. It's kind of like, well, you live in the public spotlight.
Does somebody who has a lot of followers on the internet count as a public figure?
Yeah, the contention is that it is, and I guess there's a part of me that's not entirely comfortable with that being the idea that if you have a lot of followers, your life is effectively an open book and fully worthy of media scrutiny and
vetting,
fair game.
Apparently.
Yeah, and fair game for media scrutiny, and I very much disagree with that, although I think that over time it's becoming harder and harder to draw that line.
Right, and again, it's one of those things where it may ultimately come down to the lawyers, God love them, explaining to everyone, this is what a public figure is, this is what a public figure is not as defined by law. Because just because someone is, quote unquote, Twitter famous or Facebook famous amongst a certain group of people, if that person is not recognized by by pretty much national attention, or is not running for office, or is not asking for money, basically if you're not asking for a vote and you're not asking for money, I'm not sure why just having, we talked about the show Selfie, and that whole thing was about her having all these followers and, and whatever. And I'm sure, there are some benefits, but mostly it's attention seeking. And that's okay because we all do it. But at the same time, nobody wants to be a target. And I hate to imagine a world of social media without people that come on and state their opinions, however funny or controversial, just because they're fearful that they'll be the next target.
No, actually, you hit on, I think, two very good measuring sticks, which is this a person asking for something? Like I have written critical things in recent weeks about folks running for president, and one of my, big measure, this is a process traditionally we used to call vetting in this country, Mickey. It's an ancient tradition, a bit like hazing.
Is it like tribal or something?
Yes, you have to run the gauntlet.
Are there roads?
No. Yeah, but the idea being that if you want to be president of the United States, or if you want to be a senator, or if you want to be governor, or any position like that, if not your entire life has to be an open book, then certainly large swaths of it, including, most people usually release some of their tax returns and things like that. And hey, you're asking for somebody's vote. They get to ask questions about your life in response. Now, you're always able to say no comment, or that's private, or I'm not going to tell you. But they're allowed to take that answer into, consideration for, making their decision of who they're going to vote for. You had mentioned, people who are asking for money. I think that's another perfectly good measuring stick. You want my money, you want a donation. I got to know what you're going to do with it.
Yes.
And if you're somebody I can trust with these sorts of things. Very good measurements that, if you're going to make that kind of a request, then you got to be willing to put up with some scrutiny. But if you're not making that kind of request, I don't know if we need scrutiny for the sake of scrutiny.
Right. Like, what's the point? And I want to actually, if we can, carry this over into the next segment a little bit, because not only do you get into all of what we just talked about with high school and the quote high school, I should say, and you can't see my air quotes, but I'm making them. But also all of the other dangers, real life dangers that can be out there because of your online activities. So we're going to talk about that if we're going to drag this out into the next section. I'm Mickey White. He's Jim Garrity, and we'll be right back.
Any place, any time is a good time for Coke.
Only Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling. Refreshing new feeling. Refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola's bright and lively. Coca-Cola has more zest. Coca's a lot more zest than living. Refreshing zest. Only Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling. Refreshing new feeling. Refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola refreshes best.
Hi, I'm Mickey White here with Jim Garrity, and thanks for joining us and staying with us as we continue to talk about social media. It has become such a huge part of our lives. I would say culture, but no, it's our life now at this point. And so I guess as people are moving into this new arena, there are some rules and, things that need to be established. And some of them are your basic kind of be nice to others, do unto others kind of rules. And then some of them are a little different. What do you tell your kids about being online, or are they too young to even do that yet?
It's funny you mention that, because just this morning, my oldest son asked, Dad, can I get on the internet? And, the eyebrow raised in a Spock-like fashion and said, what do you need to do? And apparently he has some school assignment in which he has to read a school age-appropriate magazine online. It's part of his homework. He needs to check online. And I said, okay, we'll do it this weekend. His homework's not due until Monday anyway. But I said to him, look, it's not that I never let you on, but there's stuff on there that's just not appropriate for kids, and I want to be there when you're doing it to make sure you don't go any place you shouldn't. Occasionally, he'll come into my home office and peer over my corner, and over my shoulder, and then I'm quickly like, who's swearing on Twitter at that moment?
Right.
Who's
Seeing
putting
my
something,
feed.
or war photos, or just there's all kinds of stuff. I remember doing one of the riots in Egypt. My Twitter feed was full of people showing pictures of brain matter.
Right.
Good morning.
By the way, just I'm going to interject right in here. That is never necessary. If you feel the need to share a picture, please feel free to create a link to it. Nobody, as Jim just so very nicely mentioned, good morning. Here's your coffee and some dead bodies on the street. Nobody wants to see that.
I suppose I just wanted to give people a piece of their mind.
Oh, jeez, that was bad.
But yeah,
Even for
exactly.
you, that was bad, Mr. Garrett.
I'm glad this isn't the Rush Limbaugh show. We'd have half your brain tied behind your back. That would be a terrible Twitter picture.
And the other half is, anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
Moving right along, Mickey. So you were going somewhere with this, what do you tell people rules for the internet and stuff?
Yeah, what do you tell people? Because again, this goes beyond social rules and social graces, which I really do. And one of the people I will credit to, I guess, one of the people I think who does a really good job with managing their social media is on Twitter. She is at Melissa Tweets. She's Dr. Melissa Clothier. And one of the first things I remember learning from her in one of her tweets was that you should treat it like a cocktail party. And, introduce yourself into conversations and not start off by, screaming in someone's face, etc. And keeping in mind that if you picture it that way as a cocktail party, then I think that it all actually starts to make sense as to how you should act. Because if you would not say these things to someone's face in public, you probably shouldn't be doing it on the internet to your, 500 followers, your 90 followers, or your 90,000 followers. And one of the other things that comes along with putting your whole life online is you're opening it up to a bunch of people that you don't know. We often talk about the dangers of sharing information online and being hacked, and everyone's so worried about their credit cards getting hacked. When in fact, the worst thing that can probably happen through the internet is something that is captured really well in one of my favorite channels, Discovery ID. Y'all know I love true crime. They have a show called Web of Lies. You can find the information at hashtag Web of Lies. You can find links to the show, etc. And I think in that particular show, they have a way of capturing things that will literally make you want to go home and rip your computer out of the wall.
Mickey, if you have wireless, ripping your computer away from the wall.
You know what I meant. You know what I meant.
So something in this show greatly concerns you about what's on your computer. It's
actually a show set up to, let's put it this way. How many of you have seen Catfish? And they talk about how people are not what they seem on the internet, but it always kind of has a funny, happy ending, even if it's a little awkward and weird.
The guy ends up being drafted by the San Diego Chargers. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Manny Te'o. Something like that. This is not Web of Lies. Web of Lies, on the other hand, tells you the true stories of people that got caught up in some very bad situations simply because of interacting with others online, whether that be through social media, through online gaming, because people forget that that's another way that people connect, is they do online gaming together. And like I said, we've got people now going out and looking at, cheaters and all kinds of other things in order to catch their spouse. But in reality, the real dangers are that there are psychopaths on the web. And these people are smart, they're savvy, and they know how to lure in children as well as adults. And so if again, it's one of those shows that if you're too paranoid to watch because you'll be, quote, too afraid to get online, don't watch that show. Don't watch it. I'll tell you that right now. But if you're someone who is really interested in seeing just how deep the depravity of what can be found on the web and how simple it gets started, check it out.
I was going to say that the Luddite in me likes the idea of people saying, you know what, I resolved to spend less time on the internet. I'll actually pick up a book. I'll actually do what my friend, the blogger Ace of Spades, once called mouth tweeting. when you actually converse with someone.
Oh, that's when you talk. Mouth
yes.
reading. That's awesome.
But having said that, as we're doing this on an online podcast, and as I write for Next Review Online, and everything I do is online in one form or another, that really the only thing you